7 o'clock. We'll call the meeting to order. Does everybody understand? Take the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Alright. First item up, we have a reading of a mayoral proclamation. Actually, two? Yep. That's where was it? 2? Yeah. We get 2 for the right one?
See that? The reading of mayoral proclamations.
Oh, proclamations.
Yep, I'm not sure where James is, so what I want to do is
figure it out.
There. We can start the meeting.
okay, James is here, we can start. First thing I would like to do is apologize to Ethan. I was originally supposed to read this proclamation and present this to him at the Eagle Court of Honor on the 22nd of March. And a lot of stuff happening that weekend, and I just totally forgot all about it. So, my apologies, Ethan.
Come out here. Yeah, come up.
This is a mayoral proclamation for Eagle Scout Ethan Allen Baca. Whereas Boy Scouting's highest honor is achieving the Eagle Scout Award, and only 1% of all Scouts ever achieve this rank. And whereas Eagle Scouts routinely act as leaders and role models within the community, it takes years of dedication and commitment to achieve the Eagle rank. And whereas on October 19, 2014, Boy Scout Ethan Baca of Troop 90 is recognized by the Boy Scouts of America for successfully completing all the requirements for Eagle Scout, Scouting's highest rank. And whereas the Eagle Scout Award is a distinction that will follow him throughout his life and will be a beacon to others of similar leadership quality and commitment. It represents a significant accomplishment, having completed the requirements for and having been examined by an Eagle Scout Board review. Ethan Baca was found worthy of the rank of Eagle Scout. Now, therefore, I, Tim Granke, Mayor of the City of Centralia, Missouri, do hereby recognize and congratulate Ethan Baca for his outstanding achievement of the rank of Eagle Scout. We are proud to have him as a member of our community. Signed and sealed this in my office this 20th day of March 2015. Ethan, congratulations. You want to tell us who's here with you tonight?
My mom, Nancy Baca,
Okay.
my sister, Rebecca Reasons, and then my niece and nephew, Anthony and Brina Gibbons.
All right. Thank you all for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Congratulations again. You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting if you like.
He's already got a citizenship badge.
There we go.
Okay. Next up is the Arbor Day Proclamation. Whereas Centralia has been named Tree City USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation, it is the 24th year Centralia has received this national recognition. Whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world. And whereas trees can cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, and produce life-giving oxygen. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of businesses, business areas, and beautify our community. Now therefore I, Tim Granke, Mayor of the City of Centralia, do hereby proclaim Tuesday, April 7th of 2015 as Arbor Day in the City of Centralia, and urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day on Tuesday, April 7th, 2015 at 2:20 p.m. at the Centralia Intermediate School, and to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. And further, I urge all citizens to plant trees to gladden the heart and promote the well-being of this and future generations. Dated this 30th day of March 2015. Jim Grinke, Mayor. Thank you very much. 24 years as a Arbor Day city, that's pretty good. Tree City, USA. So again, thank you all for coming tonight.
Thank you.
And Don, feel free to carry on.
All right, next up, comments from citizens. I think they're all leaving. We'll close that section. Water and Sewer Department. We have an activity report in our packet. Does anybody have any questions or comments on the activity report? Water. Anything on water? Nothing? Matt?
No?
I can give you an update on the 12-inch valve.
Oh, right.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right.
You want the short version?
Reader's Digest.
Yes.
Or the, where Mike's gonna get a lot of money back or vacation with pay, however you wanna say it. We had it set up to do for $9,850. Had everything on the go. They called back and they said they wanted to double check the thickness of the inside of the pipe. We got a saddle, made a tap, took the coupon out, took pictures of it, measured it, sent it to them. Called back like 3 days later, Friday, 4 o'clock, and I mean right at 4 o'clock, and said, I don't want to run your. He said, well, the good news is we can do the tap. The bad news is we're going to have to buy a special bit because of the thickness of that pipe. We don't want to come out the side of the pipe. I really didn't want to do that either up there underneath that water tower.
Mm-hmm.
Our cost on the bit was $5,100. I said, well, can't you call the company up and see if you can get one or lease it, rent it, and we'll pay the rent fee or something?
You told me it was a bit high.
Yeah. So they said they would not do that. I said, well, I don't think I can do that either. I said, let me call the company, because this is the same company we're trying to get a demonstration on to buy this unit, to be able to do it ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So I called the salesman up the following Monday, and he said, well, there's got to be an easy way, and he said, it doesn't cost that much for that bit. So I said, well, is there any way you can do this tap? Long story short, we're scheduled for Thursday. Now, I'm going to call him and talk to him about the weather coming in, but we're going to get it done for $6,248 now. And actually get to see the machine I've been trying to get here for about a year. So I'm pretty tickled about that part. I just don't know if Thursday it's going to happen like we've got planned right now. I may have to bump that to next week if I can get it scheduled that way.
So it's not $5,100 for the digital?
No. At all.
So that other guy was just down to.
Well, he flat told me his cost was $4,700, but he was going to make $400 right off the top there, charging us.
Wow.
So
For a bit we probably never use again.
I don't have the equipment right now to even use it, but I damn sure wasn't going to let him take it back with him if he paid that much
Well,
for it.
wow. No.
So
Now, if he was going to do it again,
yeah.
Sounds
So
like we need to put him on the list.
well, he's on the list.
Yeah.
Off the list, however you want to say it.
Yeah.
he's on a different list now.
But that's the sewer
Wish
part.
list.
So anyway, Thursday we were hoping to. Tomorrow he's going to call and we'll try to see where we're going to be with weather. We did them in the rain before, but I don't know how heavy rain he wants to play in.
Right.
What we're talking about, so we'll see.
Thunderstorms.
So that's all I've got on.
Okay. Sewer, irrigation agreement renewal progress.
Well, I was hoping to get a lot done on Friday and Monday on this project, and I didn't. But so I mean, we've got some notes back from Alex on Alex Benoit on a couple changes he caught. We still have to. It's there's still a few hours worth of work, and the biggest thing I'm still waiting on property descriptions. So I emailed the agreements out about a week after we met. I just got to follow up. So I was hoping to have a little bit more progress, but I'd like to get it done at the April meeting. If not, if we do a recess meeting or something like that, worst case scenario, we'll have it done by the May meeting, which is when we did it 10 years ago. So there's nobody interested in making any material changes. Everybody's happy. Nobody's going to get too upset if we start pumping this year before the agreement's actually signed.
And I can tell you on that, we are right now about half level on both lagoons, and we've been running overland flow. I'm probably gonna see what this week does weather-wise and probably shut it off as far as pumping it right now and start storing all that water so we can send it to them. Benoit is the only pond that's down right now. Everybody else is full, but once they gotta start pumping, we'll have plenty to go to them. So that's the plan.
And I'll let you know that he called me today and they have a wire burn up underground out there we found, so.
Which?
At Benoit's.
Benoit's, okay.
Yeah, he was doing some checking on things and the breaker was stripped, and so we've got a wire to dig up and fix sometime here in the next week.
Okay. All right. Any other underwater and sewer?
We're pursuing bids on the slip lining. Another one of those.
Should have that back for
Yeah.
next month.
Yeah.
Mailed out the second round today. So.
We had a minor scare when they gave us a very safe estimate. So that they knew they could get under, but it was more than we had budgeted by a bit. And then Mike said you might want to go back and check. And they went back and checked, and they hadn't sharpened their pencil as much as they could. So once again,
Just under state contract?
Well, it's still under an independence contract that we've been working under for the last 10, 12 years probably.
right. So apparently there was a range, and he gave them the top of the range.
Okay.
Mike down there. Well, he's a little.
Good job, Mike. All right.
Take
If there's nothing else underwater and sewer, we'll move on to public works. No question. And there is an activity report in our, for the streets and sanitation in our packet. So anybody have any questions or comments on that? Hearing none. Streets, road project list RFP.
It's it's exactly what we agreed to in December. Phil developed a short list of what we could do if we get the bid amount is okay. Last year we got our bid came in at $68.10, which was a very good bid.
Right. That was lower than previous.
Right.
That's lower than it been for quite a while.
Right. So we sort of built the list at $75, and then I put in a little bit of a fudge factor on top of that. So if we get a bid that's competitive enough that we can do additional projects, we looked at a couple of different options. I think number one on our list, although it's if we can afford it, because it's a kind of a big piece, would be to do an overlay in between the tracks. Because that is such a wide
On Jefferson Street?
on Jefferson Street, yeah, sorry, yeah. Because it's such a wide piece of such a wide street, it's about 40 feet wide there. If that doesn't work, we've got some other streets that Phil identified as being critical. So I'm trying to call that up while I'm talking. You got that handy, Phil?
No, I don't. And it was kind of a random list of some different sized streets. So basically, we'll just have to wait to see how it comes in and to see if we can do just a couple little small sections, or if we got enough to do a whole big street or something. So I mean, basically, it's just going to be a wait and see.
Here, I found it. Here it is. Go ahead. You want?
But yeah, that's pretty much. I mean, we're just going to have to. It's just wait and see what the prices come in, how the paving's going.
Right.
On Jefferson Street, would you need to do the whole 40 feet?
You'd have to do a good chunk of it, because even where they're parking, it's getting pretty busted up over there. But we wouldn't have to go a real thick. I mean, that one stretch is just a thin wedge. I mean, we could just kind of flatten it out this year if we get the money, and, you know, see how that gets us by. And
Well, considering we have a design to replace that with
Yeah.
concrete,
Yeah.
I'm hesitant to put too much money into asphalt on it.
I mean, we could put just a wedge on it to flatten it out and give us a couple of years or something to catch up on paving, and then look at
When
what
does
we
it
want
look
to
like
do.
in our budget that we might be able to get to that?
I'd like to do at least another year of overlay. So I would say the earliest would be probably 18, 17, 18 budget year. I guess technically the summer of 17, the FY 18 budget. It's a pretty rough stretch of road. And the concrete. I would say that it would be well appreciated by people, but as you're pointing out, if our plan is to do a concrete street and eventually, I'd rather do the wedge and give us 3 or 4 more years, and then come back and do that, because we've got if we're looking at doing the downtown streets, it would be if we did the concrete rebuild in between the tracks on Jefferson Street. A project that really wasn't per se in Lynn's list, but as Phil and I have talked, doing the streets in the square would probably be a 2 or 3 year project. So that's something that we can. I mean, I guess I understand what you're saying. Is that we make this commitment now? We're kind of making that decision on the concrete project. When we talked to APAC, they thought that doing an overlay was really not a bad intermediate term solution. Not a long-term solution, but more than a couple of years. That you could buy 3 or 4 years by doing an overlay in there, a wedge, to do a small wedge and overlay. The street is not disintegrating. It's just
Right.
rough.
I know, it is rough, but it's been rough.
Yeah.
But that was supposed to be part of the Swissler Street project, if
No.
we were able to afford it.
Oh, I see.
It didn't come in at that point.
Yeah, that's, our concrete took a sharp incline.
Right.
And went out of our pressure.
And it is one of our major streets, so I would like to see that done at some point. The question is timing on it. And then the concrete would end at the southern tracks? Is that the idea? Well, it would just be between the
Just
tracks.
between the tracks, Bill.
So it doesn't extend to the north side of the Kansas City Southern.
Yeah, doesn't always.
It's just between the tracks, but it is, I mean, it's sorely needed. That's a terrible stretch of street. And drainage and everything else is a problem in there.
Right. Right. Well, and if you're going to do concrete, you have to pretty much rebuild it. You can get some drainage assistance by doing, you can slope it a little bit more by doing a wedge of asphalt. So, anyway, that's the other 5 possible stretches is Stone Street between Hogue and Switzler, Sunrise Circle. Locust Street is in pretty bad shape. This is down there by
From Pool to Central.
yeah, thank you. Pool to Central. That is almost returning back to gravel. And that, I mean, you had that one project. Yeah, that's not a very good. Southwest Circle. That street's in pretty bad shape. It's not heavily trafficked. It's kind of a cul-de-sac, but it's and there are citizens that live down there, and it's a pretty bad looking street. And then Howard Burton Drive, Booth to the railroad tracks, which is also pretty rough right now. So those are some possibilities, and we may choose. It depends upon how much money if we have any left over. If we have the wedge on the railroad tracks between Jefferson Street between the tracks on Jefferson Street by itself is probably $35,000. That stretch, because of its width.
Getting close to half of what our budget is. Not quite, but it's.
No, well, we're about 150.
Oh, we were at that high?
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
year? Okay. Still a pretty good chunk.
Yeah, it's a good chunk. It would be likely to not that far over. So,
And I do realize that we do need to, that there are streets in town that we've been putting off overlays on that we do need also. So it's a matter of prioritizing which ones we need to do.
Well, downtown, I think we really need to start looking at milling and paving. I mean, it's.
And that's gonna take milling downtown.
Yeah.
yeah.
But if we put it off too many more years, I mean, we've got patches on top of patches in some areas, so, I mean, especially since, you know, we're having so many more activities downtown, with Anchorfest and barbecue contest and everything going on. I think it'd be a good thing to get redone to make it look, you know, a nice facelift and make everything look nicer.
So, all right.
Okay.
I think when we do the downtown, we need to do some curb and guttering too.
Yes. Yeah, in fact, Phil's going to be working a little bit.
We're starting out front here hopefully this spring.
Yeah, because some of them are falling apart. Not all of them, but enough of them, but it's work. Okay. Sidewalk grant update.
We will be looking tomorrow night at, we received 8 bids,
Proposal.
8 letters of interest with qualifications or proposals, and the committee is going to meet tomorrow night at 6:30, bring forth a recommendation to either, if there's one firm that stands out, we'll bring that to the full board for contract by ordinance authorizing us to draft a contract. If we find 2 or 3, we'll interview them that we'd like to call back. I'd rather not. I certainly don't want to interview all 8.
No.
I think any one of them could do the job. So I don't think we're going to be. I don't think anyone would be unable to do the job. So it's going to be we cannot pick based on their price. In fact, we're not allowed to really ask that. Once they come back and we choose a firm, if they say, "Oh, by the way, this is our price," and it's way out of range, we can say, "Is there a way you can get that down?" If not, we do have the option of going back to our second choice. That said, we will keep an eye on firms that we think might heavily staff the project beyond what, or have extravagant ideas of how to design. Can I say that?
Yes.
I think that's what, and also as a firm we can get along with, and that we have the comfort level with. So once we get that ready, we should have a contract by the May meeting at the latest, and the May meeting, and then they'll start drafting the work. The construction will be next summer. So we're a couple of weeks behind MoDOT's ideal schedule, but going out for the full RFQ put us back. But we're still fine. It's not an incredibly complicated project.
And it's not gonna get built this year.
No, we never. I had about 30 seconds of a fantasy that we'd get it done this summer, but there's really no way to get that bid out. Get a consulting firm, develop bid specs, bid it, and we don't want to do it while school's in session.
Right.
Does anybody, this is probably a stupid question, but why is it you cannot consider cost in interviewing for engineering services?
State law prevented that several years ago.
There-
And there's a reason.
I mean, what's the purpose?
Well, the purpose is very simple. If you pick solely on price, then firms will look at doing the cheapest thing possible, which may not be in your best interest. So or they may choose something else. If you, a firm may look at it, and they may be able to spend
I'm
an
not talking
extra.
about the project phase, I'm talking
No, no.
about the firm.
The firm phase.
Right.
The firm may decide that if they look at this and do enough engineering work on it, that's going to cost more money, they may be able to save 10 times that much on the construction phase of it. So if they spend an extra $10,000 on engineering fees, but can save $100,000 on the project costs, those are the kinds of things you get. If you look at strictly the lowest price, they're gonna look at what works, and they're not gonna worry about what is in maybe the best interest of the city, or the long-term interest, or anything other than, we want the project and we can do it for this price, we will do it, and we know we can slam it out for this amount of money, but we won't look at these other options that might save the city money down the road.
The way in
It's kind of like a doctor. Do you go, when you hire a doctor, if you have to go have heart surgery, are you going to bid that out and get the cheapest doctor, or are you going to get the doctor with the best qualifications?
Well, I think that's apples and oranges.
well, when you're bidding pipe, or you're bidding road, I'm sorry,
Materials?
materials,
Materials.
a 3-foot culvert, 3-foot wide concrete culvert is a 3-foot wide concrete culvert as long as you make the specifications.
Right.
But when you're trying to hire expertise, if you do it by price as opposed to expertise, if you're going to measure expertise versus expertise, that's what you want to do. Now, if the expertise that you like the best is way out of your price range, you do have the option through the MoDOT process of rejecting that. But it's different between, I don't know, having that reduced to price only, the theory goes, removes the decision from being based on the best suited.
Well, I never said price only, I
Yeah.
just said, why can't you consider it as part of the?
I guess the fear is that the price will drive the decision too much. I don't know.
I'm not sure, I don't remember.
If you're cynical, you might say that they had a really good lobby, but it's it is not a comparison of a piece of material. It's a comparison of ability.
I mean, I've seen projects where two different firms basically did the same design. And one firm, the construction cost was many, many times what, more. It was a cheaper engineer, and his construction costs were much higher than the guy who spent more money. He actually saved the city money on the construction end of it by spending more money and doing his due diligence on the engineering end of it.
The engineering costs on this project are supposed to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $17,000. The project is somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 times. It's about 10% of the whole project cost. So if you get the most expensive firm, you're talking 20%. So, but like Don says, if they make a blunder in the design work, and you can end up spending a lot.
Or just don't consider options that would save you money.
Right. Or they don't think of the most efficient option.
Right, they don't think of the most efficient way.
Now, does this work perfectly? Is the system, it's a human system, and in an effort to try and prevent people from doing something wrong, we probably cut out a lot of good options.
Yes. It's not a perfect solution. But thinking solely based upon price isn't a very good solution either.
Well, that's never what
I know.
It just seems like a part of the equation. I mean, I don't want to belabor the point, but I do appreciate the clarification for what it was worth.
I hope it wasn't.
Clears mud down.
I appreciate you calling it clarification.
All right. Next up, wheel loader.
Well, I just wanted to kind of update you. We are currently advertising our wheel loader on Gov deals, and I didn't check it today. Has it gone above 22,750?
Barely, 23.
23, which is still not what we were offered in terms of a trade-in, which was much higher than we expected. So we're going to easily be able to keep the wheel loader under budget for this year and possibly pay it off in. It would be a very small payment in the third year. And that the new wheel loader should be here
About the end of the month.
about the end of the month. Okay.
We'll know next Tuesday, Monday or Tuesday, if we're gonna sell it or trade again.
Okay.
And we set the reserve such that, and people have not bid as high as the reserve yet.
No.
We set the reserve such that if we get a bid above that, then it's going to beat the excellent trade-in. We were thinking 15,000. So we're doing much better than we're thinking. Actually, yeah, we were thinking about 15,000. So we're ahead of that.
Okay, sounds good. All right, next, sanitation, spring cleanup.
It'll start this weekend. Dumpsters will start rolling in this week, so,
Danes will be doing
yeah.
the heavy lifting, literally speaking.
They'll be doing, well, the rolls will be through Dane's Waste Disposal.
Slightly higher this year, but it was first time in 4 years that we had a price increase.
And we've gotten excellent service with him, so,
Yes. Okay, special pickup for residential service.
And I would like to give you a little bit of a heads up on what I'm thinking here, but this is a discussion item. I don't know how much you guys drive through town and see the trash that's set out. I have seen dozens of piles of trash that are beyond what a household would normally produce in a week. Phil and his guys who pick it up have found we've got a couple different things. We have what is probably okay, a rental property in between renters. The landlord will clean the property out. Personally, I think that's a special service and we should be charging for that. But by the same token, we don't want to. Right now, we've been very, very lenient, and I'm willing to accept that as a way to keep the town clean, which is why we have trash service. It is the sanitation department. It is a health. The reason why you have trash pickup is for the health of the community. But when we're paying $17.25 a month, there are some people who are getting more service for $17.25 than others. And Phil has found some places that have large pickups 3, 4, 5, 10 times a year, and we're talking, more. I would say 2 95-gallon carts a week should take care of just about any family under the size of 10 people. When we get past that, and when we have people who are setting out trash in loose or nothing bigger than a Walmart bag, but they have enough to fill 2 95-gallon carts, Phil's staff is spending an inordinate amount of time. So what I want to work towards is some discussion from the board, and I don't want to move precipitously fast. I don't want to move fast, but and perhaps this gets into the guard and people get all upset and get interested in this topic. But I'm thinking we need to try and move towards a set amount of trash that we will pick up for $17.25, and kind of establish rules for how we will pick that up. There may be rules on the books, but we haven't really enforced it. And if you don't follow the rules at some point, I would like to say that is a special pickup, and we'll charge you a fee for that special pickup. And I'm not talking a huge fee, but I'm talking like $5 or $10. $5 or $10 for the first 15 minutes of service, and if it takes our guys an hour to pick up your yard, it'll be more than that. But I'm not talking about next meeting. I'm not talking maybe this fall. It's that sort of rate. If you want to get the discussion started, And part of that is we right now, in the ordinance as it's written, the loaner dumpsters are basically for you to help do large cleanups at your house or small do-it-yourself projects. There's no charge. The idea is, again, to get the trash picked up. But it's not supposed to be a subsidy for a professional, no matter how big or large the company. So that's based on what, reading the ordinance and policy, that's the way I understand it. Do we still want to do that, or is that something that should be charged out? Phil usually usually don't have any in stock. They're usually
Not very long.
Yeah. I guess you only have 2 right now.
Yeah.
And they're getting kind of beat up.
Yeah.
So it's getting to the point where we're going to have some cost for loaner dumpsters for the city. In addition to the setting and picking up.
What's it cost for a homeowner to purchase one of our 95-gallon trash cans?
65?
I think they're 68, something like, whatever it costs us, we just sell the cost. I think they're about 68 right now.
Okay. And you can break that up among
Two payments.
2 payments?
Yeah.
Okay.
We don't do them in long, we used to do it longer than that, but we started losing a lot of them.
Okay.
Are you thinking that some of this trash is originating somewhere else and just showing up there on the appropriate time?
Some of it, yes. The loaner dumpsters, I mean, they're just costing us money.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're just constantly taking them out. I mean, there's nobody in the world that gives free trash service. Here's a dumpster, use it for a week and throw everything you can away. I mean, we're loaning it out for places for a week and dumping it every day, sometimes twice a day. So, I mean, that's the reason we're discussing those, and they're both needing replaced. So,
Yeah.
Phil, do you, I was just thinking out loud now, do you see the same house getting a loaner dumpster more than once a year?
oh yeah. I know of one that's probably had it half a dozen times in 1 year.
See, I can see it being sort of a rotating, we used to have spring and fall cleanup. We still have the spring cleanup, we don't have the fall. And then the loaner dumpster is sort of a rotating second cleanup.
Right. Yeah.
If you get, like one time per household, which is another thing to keep track of and costs administrative time.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I was thinking, is there's some people who are using it as,
They're.
I'd say the majority of the households have been more than once.
so we got a few people using it a lot.
Yes.
Would you attribute that to kind of abusing the system?
Oh,
Yeah.
I guess there comes a point where I guess it's sort of philosophical. If you got a family of 9 kids,
Yeah.
you're going to produce more trash.
Yeah, but I still only put trash out once a week.
Well, right, but yeah, even with 9 kids, you can usually keep it within two 95-gallon.
Yeah.
So
I could probably do 195 gallon.
There, well, good for you.
But
That's pretty impressive. But
I suspect most people do.
yeah, when you get to the point of a 2-yard container, I can see doing that once a year.
Yeah.
oh yeah.
Because right, $17.25 a month is not cheap. It's not terribly high.
Yeah, it's not.
But it's not, there are cheaper services out there, and I hate to burden the person who is only putting out half of like 30 gallons of trash a week.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the cost is just showing up, so I'm not talking about a pure pay-as-you-throw system, but there comes a point. So, you want me to
Yeah, I think you should do something.
Yeah, I think.
Well, we're at risk of ruining our most satisfied city service.
Well, on the other hand, there's probably not that many people who are abusing the system either.
Right.
So we have to take that big hit.
Yeah.
So, maybe that's why it's. Yes, what do you guys think? Is that found reasonable to pursue sort of some options. So,
Oh, yeah, I think so.
the next,
so.
okay.
Yeah.
Alright. Okay, that's what I was looking for on that. On the other hand, the next subject, unless anybody wants to. Right now, somebody called in and asked about getting outside service for, we've got some apartment, right now we charge apartments typically a residential rate for every single living unit. Right. Even though most of them don't have some of them have dumpsters. So Phil's time, which is the biggest cost, if you look at the solid waste utility, picking it up and driving it to Columbia is about 3/4 of the cost, and the tipping fee is about 1/4, roughly, of our budget. When you throw in the capital cost and everything like that. So I would also like to look at coming up with a rate that is cheaper for apartment buildings. It kind of recognizes, Columbia hasn't done something like that for a long time. It wouldn't be half or anything like that, but it would be, a lower rate, somewhere around. But I got to make sure that we're not going to lose, that we don't hurt the. I'm hoping that we get some of the money back from the special pickups to balance out the cheaper rate for apartments. It just.
Well, there is justification for it.
Yeah.
And I think most places do allow for that, at least bigger cities.
Yeah. We don't have that many units, so we're not going to give up that much rent.
Right.
But I
Don't we have a dumpster rate?
Yeah, for businesses.
Do the apartments have the same size dumpsters as
Yeah,
business
yeah.
dumpsters?
all our dumpsters are
Yeah,
cheap.
they're all the same size.
Why wouldn't they have the dumpster rate?
Well,
Yeah.
that would be an extreme drop in revenue, but I can't argue with the logic. I mean, if you own an apartment building, your dumpster takes as much time to dump as a business. Now we want to make sure that we tell them how many dumpsters to have, because you don't want to take a 30-unit apartment and say, hey, I could get off really cheap if I only got one dumpster. So there's a reason to count the number of units so they don't go that far. But not that anybody would try and get it unreasonable. don't want to suggest that people who own apartments are going to try and get a better rate than anybody else. But I think there's some sort of balance between a straight dumpster rate like you do for businesses and what we're doing right now, which is charging them as if we had the same costs of picking up at a residential single-family home. So that would be my goal, to pursue something like that. Does that make sense? I think it needs to be more than just the dumpster rate, because then there would be a temptation to say, oh, we can get by with just one dumpster.
And trash laying all over.
Then you got trash stacked around it on top of it.
Yeah.
And everything else. So, yes,
And we have right now.
Yeah.
yes, I'm sure.
All right.
But if they could save money by having 2 dumpsters over what they're paying now,
Get them there. Yeah.
Right.
then you wouldn't have all that laying around.
Right. Right.
Yeah, it's all gonna be how you approach it.
Right. Well, we know that if you've got, let's say we know they're 2-bedroom units and you've got 22 bedroom units, we're going to have an idea what 40 bedrooms will produce. So if they say, oh, we only need 1 2-yard dumpster picked up once a week, and say, no, that's not going to work. But since we're charging you based on the number of units that are with water service, we can it'll still be
Do you
cheaper.
send a bill to each individual apartment?
It varies. I think there are some where we send a bill, the landlord is paying the trash bill, and then there are some where the tenants are paying the trash
It
bill.
kind of depends on whether their landlord is paying the water and the electric, or.
Well, in Columbia, there are 3 trash rates. One is curbside service, standard curbside, whether you're in a duplex or residential or a rented house or whatever. There is, and I'm not saying that that's just a for instance. There is residential apartments where the individual pays the rate, and then the cheapest rate is residential apartments where the landlord pays the rent, because you're saving on the collection costs and the administrative costs. So that might be more. I don't know if we need 3 rates. I don't want to make it overly complicated, but an apartment rate is what I'm looking at.
Well, I think there's justification for it. I think you should pursue something on it. We'll take a look at it.
Okay. Great. I just didn't want to start off on a project and present it to you guys without.
All right. Next up, storm sewer. Are they still working?
Do what?
Are they still working?
Yes, we've got a few culverts we got to install, and lots of ditching if we get time, it dries up a little bit.
Okay. Any other under public works? Hearing none. Move on to the electric department, activity report. Any questions or comments? Long-term power RFP update.
We have been, after the flurry of activity selling the capacity, we hadn't been meeting until this last week, where we met with a gentleman, Chris Duncan, who was with a GDS consulting engineering firm, and the presentation he made to the city of group of the city of Centralia, the city of Hannibal, and the city of Cahokia, the 3 members of our 5-member group that also own capacity in Prairie State. We looked at some different options. We had about a 3-hour discussion about options other than what we have been doing for years, which is a full requirements purchase. And right now, the city of Kirkwood was in our group, I guess, 15 years ago, 10 years ago. Mark Petty and the Kirkwood group decided to start buying power themselves and get out of the full requirements purchasing. Bob Stevenson from Hannibal has been looking at the possibility of doing something with a group like ours. This company would be willing to do that. So we looked at some options. At this point, it's just that possibility. We've gotten some pretty favorable rates, so it gets down to how much risk you're willing to take. To do this, we'd have to have somebody, we'd buy a certain block of power, and because all 3 of us, Cahokia, Hannibal, and Centralia, have purchased a wise amount of Prairie State. In other words, it's a coal burning plant, and the coal burning plant is good for base load. It takes a while to fire it up. It's cheap, but it is not going to. But you can't add increments as the temperature goes up, and you have to call on more air conditioning. As you get to the hottest days of the year, you add peaking plants, which are usually high expense diesel or natural gas burning units. The price of natural gas has come down more and more. The intermediate, in between, not the peak of the highest peak of your summer, and not the base load below which you never fall. More and more of that's now natural gas. So the cities would in this model hire a service to put together a portfolio of energy, and then we would have to work with the the day-ahead market and the buying power just a day ahead based on what our load forecast is and that sort of thing. To do that, you usually can save money if you forecast well. So, but we're looking at those possibilities. We're also continuing to, we're going to go out and get updated bids from NextEra, AEP, and Ameren on the full requirements. So we're still looking at the possibility of coming up. We would, if the board would like, we could have him come here, Chris come here and talk to you guys about what that is. I wouldn't want you to be worried about whatever it is we're doing for power purchases. That's our most expensive purchase that we make. So before we make some kind of, before we take on any additional risk that we've taken on before, I want you guys to have a pretty good idea of what it is that we're talking about.
So would you be looking at reducing our base load and then picking up the difference with some of this peaking power?
Well,
which would theoretically save us some money?
It would theoretically save us some money because we would not have, because we would be managing our own portfolio rather than writing a check to Ameren saying, you take care of everything, we'll pay you to take the risk of the market.
Okay.
Because they're not going to lose.
Wouldn't expect it.
No, we wouldn't really want them to because, but they're not going to lose. So we should be able to get power cheaper by doing this.
Because right now we're buying, what, 10 kilowatts?
We have our peak capacity above which the price really shoots up is 11 megawatts right now. In the next, what we put in for the next contract right now is 10 because we've never gone above 9.7. And there is a little leeway in it. So if we went to 11.2 one day, it doesn't trigger a huge, or 11.2 one day, it would not trigger the increased prices. So yeah, this would be, instead of just buying one capacity limit and one price for all our energy, it would be, we'd be buying some power at $20 for 2 cents a kilowatt. We'd probably be buying some at 12 cents a kilowatt. Right now it's all about 4.2 cents. So anyway, so that we had a presentation. It was actually pretty interesting, and it looked. The other thing is that firm would work with us to look at other options, including having some alternative fuels, and also looking at the GDS will work with us as we face the possibilities of net metering. In other words, people putting solar on their houses or businesses and selling excess power back to the city at the at the wholesale rate.
Right.
So they could do some other things for us like that.
I think it might be worthwhile having a presentation.
Okay.
All right. Developing RFP for boring and conduit.
Mark and I sat in had a conference call today with DHMG. We would like for them to produce an RFP, or actually RFB, bids on who will do the construction project. They will produce and manage the bid process for us for $7,000. I think it's money well spent. I don't think that.
Well, we don't have the expertise.
I agree. So, and then we work with them through the whole project. I think it's a no-brainer. But I did want a motion from you guys to give me the authority to move forward with that. So that we,
Do I hear a motion? Do so.
so move.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes.
All right. The timeline would be to get a RFP on the street by April 26th. Was that the date she gave?
Yeah,
And then have
by the end of the month.
By the end of the
I just know the pre-bid meeting was gonna be around May 14th.
right. We have
That's the main
pre-bid
date
meeting.
I remember. I
Yep.
can't remember exactly
So
what
the
date.
bid would be out about 2 weeks before that.
Yeah.
We have on the street by 1st of May, pre-bid conference May 14th, and be
Due
ready.
on the 27th.
Right. We could do a recess meeting and approve the contract at the first, is it June 1st is the meeting? Yeah, June 1st or June 8th, or at worst case scenario, I think we're not gonna meet on the 15th, but we're gonna meet on the 22nd, so that we have a contract for the company to start mooring
Okay.
by then, and so to get the project done this summer.
Why are we not meeting on the 15th?
I'm gonna be on vacation.
Oh, okay.
And I'm gonna be at AT.
Is that right?
Right.
Because he's gonna be at 18.
Okay. I'm just curious.
It's just,
I'm gonna be
it's
at,
just too close to Flag Day.
I'm gonna be at,
We're all going
That's it.
we're just gonna take a month of June off.
Beware the ice.
All right. Any other under electric department then?
I just mentioned we should have some scrap bids coming in, for your board meeting this month.
Okay.
So they advertisements in the paper. So look for that.
Okay. Any other